Good morning. Welcome to Bay Area UU Church. I am Reverend Katie McQuaige-Lucas, and my pronouns are she and hers. And today we have a very special guest. The Texas UU Justice Ministry is our state-level organization, and so on the one hand, they're connecting congregations to the public sphere by amplifying our voices and advocating for legislation, and then they also return to offer us resources and tools for our local work, and they help us partner with other organizations and with other UUA things, and it's all pretty fantastic. Reverend Erin Walter will wave and say hello. She is their executive director and minister. She's joined us to talk about the state of our democracy and the work to which Unitarian Universalism is calling us in this election season. She is from Bastrop. She is a musician as well as a minister. So give her a warm welcome. And so now let us take a breath and a moment of pause to gather ourselves for our time together. Whoever you are, whomever you love, however you arrived here this morning, in body, in mind, in spirit, whether you're joining us in person, whether you're watching online, wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here this morning. If this is your first time, we are glad that you are here. If this is your 500th time, we are glad that you are here. So come, enter into this sacred time and place, made sacred by our faith in one another and by our commitment to bringing love and justice into being. Come and let us worship together.
Hi there, I'm Jane Ebon, your worship associate. Today, Susan Long will light the chalice. We light our chalice as a symbol of gratitude as we celebrate the abundance of our lives together. In this sanctuary, we harvest bushels of strength for one another and offer our crop with the hands of compassion and generosity. In the authentic and gentle manner of our connections, we cultivate a simple sweetness to brighten our spirits. May we be grateful for the ways we nourish and uplift each other, for it is the sharing of this hallowed time together that sustains us. Thank you, Susan. Our opening song is number 38, Morning Has Broken. And please stand as you're willing and able.
Praise
covenant is the silk that joins Unitarian Universalist congregations, communities, and individuals together in a web of interconnection. The practice of promising to walk together is the precious core of our creedless faith. Please join me in saying our covenant. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity and fellowship. Thus do we covenant with one another.
Our reading this morning is number 560 in the gray hymnal. And it is a unison reading. Number 560, Commitment, from Catholic worker activist Dorothy Day. Please join. People say, what is the sense of our small effort? They cannot see that we must slay one brick at a time, take one step at a time. A pebble cast into a pond causes ripples that spread in all directions. Each one of our thoughts, words, and deeds is like that. No one has a right to sit down and feel hopeless. There is too much work to do. Thank you so much, choir. We are blessed to have such beauty. Our story this morning comes to us from a Persian Sufi poet, Farid Attar. It's called The Conference of the Birds. And so once upon a time, and very far away, a large crowd of birds gathered. And they were concerned, and they thought, gosh, we're so disorganized, we need a leader. And they looked around at each other and they said, no one here is wise enough and loving enough to be our leader. The hudhud bird spoke up saying, I know where there is a magnificent bird, a truly magnificent bird who could guide us with wisdom and with love. But it is a terribly, terribly long journey with many tests along the way. And the hudhud bird began to describe the journey, and many of the birds felt discouraged and whispered to each other saying, I don't know if I can do this. But some birds agreed to go. A beautiful parrot, a nimble finch, and a fast hawk. And so they set off. And the first to falter was the parrot, who was struggling to keep up. And the hudhud bird said, my friend, you are wearing gold and you wear jewels, and their weight holds you back. And so the parrot stripped their gold and their jewels and struck out with renewed energy. They encountered a terrible storm, and the finch cried out, I cannot go on, I am too afraid. And the hudhud bird said, yes, I see you are afraid, but if fear holds you back, you will never fly forward. The other birds spoke encouraging words, and the finch felt braver, and so kept flying. They came at last to a rocky seashore, and there the hudhud bird told them that there was an island ahead, and on that island was a mountain, and on that mountain was the wisest and the most loving bird. And the hawk became very excited and said, I'll be the first to arrive, and shot past the others and was immediately lost in the mist and the fog. Am I going the right way? The hawk asked, flying faster and faster in panic. But then the hawk slowed down, hovered, and grew calm, and began to hear in the distance friends calling them. And so the hawk flew in that direction and said, I'm sorry, I was wrong to think I did not need you. The birds welcomed their hawk friend back, and they flew onward together. They emerged from the mist and the fog and saw the mountains ahead. The hudhud bird said, we have cast off distractions, we have gathered our courage, and we have learned that we belong together. Surely we are ready to meet the wisest and most loving bird and ask them to guide us. They flew to the top of the mountain, but there was no bird there. There was only a great shimmering lake. They landed around it bewildered, but then the hudhud bird told them to look into the waters. And the parrot looked and saw a parrot. The finch looked and saw a brave finch, and the hawk looked and saw a hawk. None of them was individually wise and loving enough to be the leader of all the birds. And so they looked and they looked, and they felt very, very confused. But then they realized they could see each other too. They saw not only themselves, but the whole group. And they knew that even though their journeys were separate, with their own particular challenges, that they were connected to each other. And they realized that together they were wise and loving, and together they could be the leader their people needed. Now is the moment in our service where we light candles for ourselves and for each other. We gather every Sunday still carrying all of our cares from the week behind us, and perhaps anticipating the cares of the week ahead. We come with milestones in our hearts, moments where our lives have changed for good or for ill. We bring our joys and our sorrows here, to this place, because we know that others have sorrowed, others have rejoiced, and that wherever we are not alone. I invite you to come forward now to light a candle, for yourself, for a loved one, for a hope, a worry, a joy, or a sorrow. Whatever you bring this morning, bring it forward now, and know that we will help you bear it for a time.
Good morning. I'll be honest with you, if you saw me crying while you were lighting those candles, it's because it's so deeply moving to be with you and to bear witness to the warmth and the love of this community in person for the first time. To see you hug each other and laugh and reach out to each other. To see Reverend Katie have to go get more candles. To feel the music wash over my body. I'll be honest with you before I pray, it is not easy to do this job. To show up at the Texas Capitol over and over again, to come to our congregations and ask you to do it with us, because I absolutely believe in it, and I've seen the work, and we'll talk about it in the sermon, about the difference that you are making and that we are making. But it's not easy work. And so I have the joy of coming to be with you in person today and pray with you and sing with you, and it fills my cup back up. So thank you. Thank you, Reverend Katie, for the invitation. Thank you to John and the choir for the music. Thank you to Kathy Vance and Jeff Boxell, who've been our representatives from your congregation to the Texas UU Justice Ministry. And to Jane, your lay worship leader, who when I asked out there in the foyer this morning, what do I need to know about the congregation? What else? She said, there's nothing. And then she started to walk away, and then she said, nope, there's one thing. We roll with it. And I said, that's my kind of church. That's what I'm here for. We roll with it. So that's what I have to share with you before I pray. I invite you into the spirit of meditation, of prayer, of connecting with your ancestors, your sense of divine, the love that holds us all and speaks to us in every language, across no human borders, recognizing them not one bit, as we are all, as our seventh principle tells us, interconnected in this web of life. Spirit of life and love, I pray gratitude for this community and ask you to hold, as we hold together, all the prayers of their hearts shared in the light of the candles and in the sanctuaries of their spirits. I pray gratitude for new lives born and for lives that continue in wisdom and depth as we all age. God, I pray for our leaders, that they understand that the truth, that the answers, that the way forward comes not from the top, not from some ivory tower, not from some restricted place, but from the margins, from the hearts, from all the people who know what we need. May our leaders hear us. I pray for all human beings that we may release the lies that we have internalized from capitalism, from colonialism, from oppression, the lies that have told us somehow greed will get us there. God, release us. Release us. We know it's not true. Let us live another truth, that abundance and love is the way. I pray for an end to genocide. I pray for an end to war, for the hands of doctors who are healing us, for each one of us when we are struggling with depression or anxiety, that we may find the strength to call a friend or go outside into the sunshine. Because the truest truth I know is that the world is beautiful and that we are loved and we are never alone. Amen and blessed be. Our prayer and song is number 123. You may remain seated or in the posture that is good for you. And it was our congregational hymn at my congregation, Second Unitarian in Chicago, when I lived there. So I send to you not just the love of your 40 Texas UU congregations, but your sibling UUs from Chicago and around the world. Spirit of life.
Today's reading is Voting Rights is a Moral Issue by Ralph Warnock. There is no question that voting rights is a moral issue. Democracy, in a real sense, is the political enactment of a spiritual idea. This notion that each of us is a child of God, and therefore we ought to have a vote and a voice in the direction of our country and our destiny within it. When we defend these voting rights, this is a much larger than a political exercise for me. It's really about dignity of everyone's humanity and our ability to build a future that embraces all of us.
Will you snap with me? If you feel like it. Come on, come on, come on. Don't you wanna vote? Same line if you wanted. Come on, come on, come on. Don't you wanna vote? One more time. Come on, come on, come on. Don't you wanna vote? Oh yes, I wanna vote. Now have you registered somebody? Have you registered somebody? Don't you wanna vote? Have you registered somebody? Don't you wanna vote? Well, have you registered somebody? Don't you wanna vote? Oh yes, I wanna vote. One more verse, do it for the children. Ready? Do it for the children. You can clap if you want. Don't you wanna vote? Do it for the children. Don't you wanna vote? I said do it for the children. Don't you wanna vote? Oh yes, I wanna vote. Yes, I do wanna vote. And a friend of mine will say, remember when you wanted the things that you already have now? Do you remember something in your life that you have now that you had to fight for? And remember what it's like to fight for something. And by the same token, and I got to listen to Reverend Katie's sermon from last week on reproductive justice, and thank you for that. There are things that we fought very, very hard for, and now we have to fight for them again, right? And so in the same way that we cannot take for granted our rights to bodily autonomy, we cannot take for granted this right to vote, which is tied to our passion for climate. I've asked about this congregation. I've seen the survey that you've given us about what your priorities are and what you hope that your state action network will be doing with you. Reproductive justice, climate justice, things that are so close to our hearts. Here in Houston, immigration work is very important to our UUs. There's so many things that are important to us. Trans rights, LGBTQ rights, so many things. And it comes down sometimes to protecting our democracy. And having a vision, friends, not just of this election or one election. I need you to see with me, and then I need you to preach it back to me every time I need it, a vision of 1,000 elections from now. I want to share with you these words about the Unitarian Universalism that does not yet exist. These come from the Reverend Dr. Natalie Fenimore, a minister for lifespan religious education at our UU congregation siblings in Shelter Rock, New York, the former president of the Liberal Religious Educators Association and former vice president of Star King School for the Ministry. The Reverend Dr. Fenimore remembers this from Shirley Chisholm. who was asked why Shirley Chisholm, a Black woman, was running for president back when she ran for president. Someone asked, "You don't have a chance. Why are you doing that?" And Shirley Chisholm said, "Because I am in love with the America that does not yet exist." And the Reverend Dr. Fenimore, our UU minister, one of my colleagues, then said that she also is in love with a Unitarian Universalism that does not yet exist. And she says, "I hold both the love for that thing and the love for reality. It doesn't yet exist. It might not exist and probably won't exist in my lifetime. Maybe not even fully for my children, but I can't deny my love for it." And that is how I feel when I cry, when I see you come together, when I think about democracy, when I think about my trans beloveds who are fighting to stay here, but others who have left the state, when I think about the people I met on a recent border witness trip with the Texas UU Justice Ministry, the people seeking asylum, the families waiting for their chance to be here with us for an America that they believe in, and one that we also know does not yet exist. And so my colleague, Reverend Dr. Fenimore, says, "I can't deny my love for it." You know, wanting to be there in that struggle, that's why I'm fighting. So I dream of a democracy where everyone's voice is counted, and the wisdom that comes from your lived experience and the lived experience of every child, every elder, every immigrant, every person who has struggled to say to the world, "This is who I am. Let me live as I am." Every person who has struggled to put food on the table, who wonders every day how they're going to pay the rent or where they're going to live in Austin, the city I grew up in that is almost impossible to afford now. Every person who says, "Does my vote not count in the face of companies, of billionaires that are on track to be trillionaires in a decade or two?" That is an abomination. It is an abomination to accumulate wealth like that. I'm not saying you can't work hard and earn, but that is not what this beautiful planet is here for. So I dream, and I invite you to dream with me today, what kind of laws would we have if everybody voted and everybody counted? That bodily autonomy, what would our earth look like? So first I want to understand together a little bit of what is, because there is a lot to be hopeful about when I tell you what our reality is right now, okay? Right now, a lot of our voting news is good news and bad news all at once, okay? So right now, of our citizens here in the United States, of 18 to 24-year-olds, only 36% are voting. Of 25 to 44-year-olds, 56%. Of 45 to 64-year-olds, my age group, 67.8%. 65 to 75, 72%, and then older than 75, 66%. That is a lot of people we can reach together, those percents that aren't voting yet, when we pool our resources and we make fighting for democracy a faith practice for us, when we live our fifth principle together, when we know that it's not just the Bay Area UUs who are incredible and amazing and do a lot of great work, but that the Bay Area UUs can do it with 39 other Texas congregations, and they can do it with every UU congregation around the country that's making good trouble, and they can do it with our interfaith partners and our secular partners all around the state. Gender-wise, it's even all across the board, which feels interesting. I don't know how that worked out. So we won't worry about gender. There's about half for people of all genders. So go find the other half and let's get those people to vote. Educational attainment. This is really important. People with advanced degrees, 82% of them are voting here in Texas. People who have grade school or some high school, it's 32%. That's a huge gap. And the range that you might imagine in between. People in that 32, or I guess let's do the math together, shall we? It would be about what, 68, is that right, 68%? The 68% that are not voting from that group, do they have something to say about what the government needs to be doing and the resources that our communities need? Do we believe, I'm asking you, do we Unitarian Universalists truly believe that those people have something to say and that their voices matter? Yes, yes, and it's not a silly question. We do not, as a faith tradition, believe that you have to have a master's degree like I do to be a voter. We need everybody. There is wisdom from everyone. Family income, of course, the lowest, the same thing. The lowest bracket is voting the least. All I can tell you is that there are things that are trained into us to think that maybe those folks don't have the answers. They do. If you are in that category right here in this room, and you've been made to feel in Unitarian Universalism, where there are a lot of master's degrees and a lot of big words for talking about what it means to have faith and be loved. If you've felt on the outside of this faith, your voice really, really matters, and we really, really need you. Whatever it is about you that feels like it's outside of the norms of our faith or our democracy, you are who we need. In Harris County, you have added more voters than any county in the entire state, an increase of more than 230,000 over the past 4 years. 230,000. You have, in Harris County, that is where we are, right? Okay. Houston is big, y'all. But I checked. I Googled it. But still, it could be that this church is in like some other pocket. Gerrymandering is real too. But Harris County has more than 2.6 million registered voters as of this month. So what I am here to say to you is if we do nothing else this year but get a whole lot of new voters going in Harris County, and we do a whole lot of mobilization for our faith voice in Harris County, that is going to be huge. And here's what my colleague Josh Houston of Texas Impact, our interfaith organization that really lobbies for our progressive values in Texas, says, feel like your voice doesn't matter? Only 14% of eligible Texans vote in the March primaries. 14% of eligible Texans. That's not even the people I'm asking you to go get registered who aren't eligible yet. 14%. That's really where most of our state legislative seats get going, right? So I also ask you to please be having conversations across the aisle. The Texas UU Justice Ministry is a nonpartisan 501c3. We ask you to have conversations with people across political aisles to talk with them about who, even in the other party, might make the most faithful person to run there too. Have conversations with those people who get elected, even if you didn't vote for them, about what it means for them to represent you. They are supposed to represent all of us. So I'm asking you to engage. I'm asking you to engage here and engage with us. We have a lot of room to make good trouble here in Houston. That Dorothy Day quote did say there's too much work to do. She's not wrong. There's still too much work to do, but we can do it together. One of the things that we do at TechSujum is we invite our congregations to sign on at this time of year in the even years, those are the election years, to be part of a collective grant that we will write so that we get funds from the UU funding program to focus on democracy with you. And so that, is it me? No, it's Democracy Calling, it needs us. That grant will allow us to invite you into all kinds of programs this year. Phone banks, letter writing campaigns, postcard campaigns, supporting you to do the roles at the polls, to pay attention, to be voter registrars, to block walk, whatever your area needs most. Every congregation is different, right? So we will work with you and the people who are excited about democracy. Is there anyone who's excited about saving democracy in this congregation? Okay, great. Is there anyone who would like to see us have reproductive justice and bodily autonomy? Is there anyone who would like to continue living on this planet and not have to go find a new planet? Okay. So we will work with you to find where the energy is in your congregation and how we can support you and connect you to fellow UUs around the state. And we will invite you to do some of the collective things with us. So may I invite Kathy Vance to wave? Kathy is one of your representatives to the Texas UU Justice Ministry. Whether you see me all the time or not, someone from your congregation is visiting with us monthly and letting us know how you're doing and what your needs are, and we're sharing our opportunities with you. And so you can talk to me after the service, you can talk to Kathy, you can talk to Reverend Katie. She and I have been spending time together in conversation about this work. Jeff Boxall, are you in the room today? Oh no, I got to see Jeff on Zoom yesterday. Hi Jeff. But those are some of the folks you can talk to and make sure that your congregation is engaged with the work, is part of the grant. That way we can offer those opportunities to you. There's so much that we're doing, and so I would probably overwhelm you if I went down the list. But I want to invite you to please sign up for our emails. And I brought my cards that I'm happy to give you after. Our website is txuujm.org. That's Texas UU Justice Ministry.org. And we do our best. We're a scrappy group. We don't have anybody full-time yet. I'm almost full-time, and we have some part-time organizers and seminarians, and it's very volunteer-driven. So I also want to say to you, when you sign up for our newsletter, and you get one, if you see something that you think to yourself, oh, I could do that even better, or I would like to be a part of that, and I could help them with that, please reach out. We're you. The Texas UU Justice Ministry is the congregations volunteering and working together. So the last numbers I'm going to share with you, and then I'm going to share with you one more song, are some of our numbers from the Ledge last year and from our democracy work the year before. In 2022, we reached, in just one text campaign alone, 500,000 low-propensity Black voters in Texas. What that means, and that was just one, we wrote, how many postcards did we write, Dale? It was so many postcards. Thousands of postcards, thousands of letters, thousands of phone calls. But with technology, with the text campaign, we reached 500,000 people. They had to tell us to stop because those text messages are expensive. But we're going to fundraise, and we're not going to stop reaching out to voters. Because here's what happens. When you're 230,000 new Houston voters, some of them don't know where to vote, how to vote. It's not enough just to be registered, but to have someone who cares that your vote gets cast and gets counted is big work. So anyway, that's 500,000 voters who are less likely to vote. They don't get hounded by the two big parties. Here's something else I really want you to know. How many of you get hounded by your political party over text and postcards and emails and everything? I'm not saying that's wrong, right? I do too. Believe it or not, there are people out there who don't get any of that. The big parties are funded and trained. Their communications machine is to get those of you that are reliable, likely voters to do it. So we, the interfaith partners, the people who are fighting for democracy as a spiritual practice, as a commitment to the very ethic and faith of democracy, of believing that everyone's vote matters, not just some people's vote, we have a lot of work to do to reach all those people who might not even know it's election day, who might not know that their polling place has changed. Every Thursday, we gather on Zoom for something called Action Hour. I invite you to that. Our volunteer teams gather the most important actions on reproductive justice, on climate, on immigration, on voting rights, whatever our partners on the front line are telling us needs us that week. We get on Zoom together, we learn about it so we can feel less hopeless because we learn about it together, and then we take those actions. I would love to see you. I would love to see people from Bay Area. I would love to see the chat when we say, where are you checking in from before we take our actions? I would love to see the chat flooded with Bay Area UU folks taking action together in community. It's special because you get to know your UUs and you get to learn. And it is a true solve against hopelessness to make it a spiritual practice. So that's every Thursday at 7 p.m. And the last thing I want to say to you, some of you have heard me say before, but it's been on my heart a lot. We must keep a vision for what is possible. The way it's going now is not the only way the world could be. And so 2 years ago, I was in Washington, D.C. with the Poor People's Campaign and our partners for a gathering about democracy, led by poor people, led by people of color, led by people who've been marginalized by our powers that be. And we heard from the Reverend Dr. William Barber, we heard from Cornel West, we heard from leaders, and our U.S. Capitol was behind them on the podium. And it was not long, about a year since the January 6th insurrection. So the emotions around how delicate things can be for democracy were right here for me. And then we spent 6 hours. Sometimes I stand up here for 20 minutes and I think, oh, it's a long time for them to listen to me. But we were there listening to people for 6 hours about this, and it still nourishes me, but not so much because of the speeches, but because of what happened at the end. After all the famous people had left, and it was just the people, the workers and volunteers who make it possible for this gathering to happen, stayed up on the stage together and sang. And they circled up together and they just sang to each other, not worrying about anything else, but celebrating how they had brought people together and believing in the change. And I'm gonna sing for you the song that stays on my heart from that moment that I just felt privileged to witness. It comes from the Christian tradition, but the lines that they were singing were, "There's an army rising up to break every chain, to break every chain, to break every chain." If you know it, you can sing it with me. There's an army rising up to break every chain, to break every chain, to break every chain. And I love that line, but it's not what's most important. And apologies to those of us who are peace people about the army language, but I think about whatever chain, I'm going to invite you now to think with me about whatever the chains are in your life. The chains of racism or transphobia, the chains of economic struggle, the chains of being told what to do with your body, any of that. And it wasn't just that the people who had gathered, the people who are frontline for the struggle were singing that the army was rising up to break every chain. It was that then, over and over and over again, they sang, "I hear the chains falling." Take a breath. I hear the chains falling. 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 On behalf of all of your siblings around the state, I ask you to keep the sound and the vision for our democracy, our faith that is 1,000 years from now, where we and generation and generation and generation and generation have broken and dropped the chains. And we need you today in very little ways, in hard ways, in ways that make me cry, and in ways that bring me great joy, and that I know bring our people great joy in being together. Little things now, emails, actions, for a vision of a whole new world. Thank you. May it be so.
For a minister, it is a tremendous gift to sometimes be able to just go to church. So thank you for that. This community and the larger communities as well, it's just us. It's you and it's me coming together to make it all happen. And so at this moment, we practice gratitude for this community and generosity to sustain this community and the work that we do together in this building and the work that we do to transform the world outside of this building. Please give as generously as you are able.
Beautiful. Please join me in blessing our offering. This gift from the abundance of my life blesses me, our ministry, and the world. We've got some announcements for today. The 2023-24 Unitarian Universalist Common Read is the book on repentance and repair, Making Amends in an Unapologetic World by Rabbi Danya Rutenberg. This common read offers us an opportunity to engage with Judaism, one of our foundational sources. The book explores accountability and restitution and applies it to our own personal and community relationships. Check out the order of service for more information. Great Decisions is the America's largest discussion program on world affairs. This year, the BAUUC Speaker and Events team has been putting together the 2024 Great Decisions Study Discussion Program. Every discussion session is preceded by a presentation prepared by New York's Foreign Policy Association. These are very thorough and usually cover everything a guest speaker would cover. This year, our discussion groups begin February 8th at 10 a.m., 2 p.m., and 7 p.m. The discussions will run for 8 weeks. Registration and booklet distribution will be held on Thursday, February 1st at 10 a.m., 2 p.m., and 7 p.m. in Cockrell Hall. Check the order of service and weekly email blast for more information. And the Bloodmobile is coming to us on Sunday, February 18th in the parking lot. Be sure to reserve your spot early. You can use the QR code on the screen to reserve your spot or watch for the link and more information in the weekly email blast. The strategic planning meeting has been rescheduled to March 23rd, and please note that in your order of service, it's the wrong date. So ignore that, and it's March 23rd. We'll be sending out more information as the date gets closer. On February 12th and 13th, we're going to be hosting an arts festival for everyone in the surrounding area. We have 18 booths available for $100 to $110. There will be refreshments on the front lawn, and we hope to get some musical entertainment to play as guests enter. This event should be lots of fun and a great opportunity to meet new people. Be sure to save the date and look for more information in the order of service and weekly briefs. After service today, be sure to join us for coffee and fellowship in Cockrell Hall. We look forward to meeting with you. And if you're not on our email list, we can sign you up. You can sign up on our website at bauuc.org, or you could fill out a form in the back at the guest table. We will send you out an email of news and events every Tuesday, and there's a lot that's there with activities that are happening in our church. And our closing hymn for today is in your gray hymnal, number 170, "We Are a Gentle, Angry People."
Sing
However you came in here today, whatever your heart is seeking, may you find it in some piece of this beloved community. And may you remember that you are that for someone else. It matters that you're here and that you were here today. And it matters next time and every time. For us as ministers and as spiritual communities, one of our things that we're here to do is to give you tools to equip you for this life, right? So I invite you to take with you, do it for the children, don't you want to vote? And I invite you to take with you were going to sing it, you've already got it. We could do it. We could sing it out in the foyer when we go. I invite you to take with you, I hear the chains falling, I hear the chains falling. And put those in your spiritual toolkits for when you need them. I tell you, I sing them to myself in Bastrop, Texas when I walk my dog. And now I'm going to have you with me when I do it. And if there was something you needed today that you haven't quite found yet, keep seeking and share it with someone in this community and out there in that world that needs you so much. We turn to somebody and say, I love you, or I'm glad you're here. Turn to a neighbor before we go. Tell somebody, I love you, I'm glad you're here. Perfect. Now let's take that love out into coffee hour. Let's take that love out into the programs of this church, and let's take that love out into the world. Blessed be.